hope you all have caught your breath after another memorable edition of the Leadville Trail 100, the race that never stops giving. Giving medals, giving buckles, giving pain, giving stories, and giving memories. This was the 30th time Leadville has given mountain bikers something to write home about, and we're going to get to a few of those stories in this race recap show. But first, of course, we want to thank our title sponsor and the 100's official component company, Shimano, for showing up and helping out. Shimano was working the expo, helping racers get their bikes ready, and they were around on race day, ready to deal with any last-second emergency.
Yeah, and that's kind of the funny thing, Hottie. I made a couple passes by the Shimano tent at the expo, and the support folks did not seem stressed. They didn't seem super busy. That is, I think, because Shimano stuff is so good. I can tell you from personal experience that once I get my Shimano components installed, whether it's shifters or derailleurs, my hot wax Shimano chain, or my XTR brakes, there just isn't that much left to do except ride. And that's what I did again this year. I rode 105 miles over some of the toughest terrain in America, never missed a shift, never had my brakes fade.
That's why Fatty and I have long said that you should trust your Leadville 100 race to Shimano. And to broaden on that point, you should trust all your races and rides to Shimano. We thank Shimano for being on hand as race support, and we thank them for being the title sponsor of this show. Check them out at bike.shimano.com.
3, 2, 1,
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. It is season 7, episode 25 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
And I am Fatty, and we have been smiling for days since one of our own, and I mean that in a very family way, won the Leadville Trail 100. As most of you know, Melissa Rollins is family to me. She's the daughter of my wife, Lisa the Hammer. We have watched Melissa go from mountain bike curious to racer to lead challenge competitor, back to racer, turned pro, and now she's realized her dream of becoming a Leadville champion. We will certainly acknowledge her win in this race recap show, but we intend on giving her a full-on episode so she can tell us turn by turn, climb by climb, how she won the 30th edition of the Leadville Trail 100.
But like Fatty said, Melissa is one of our own, so we took advantage of that relationship, Fatty. Gave Melissa a night to sleep on her win, then put a mic in front of her to get a more immediate reaction to that win.
So we are sitting at the finish line of the Leadville 100, roughly 18 hours after the race is over for everyone. Melissa, congratulations, and how do you feel?
I can't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I feel awful, good, all of it, mostly awful, but like in a good way.
We are going to spend a whole hour going into ridiculous detail of your whole race in a future episode. But for right now, what are the moments you're going to take with you 10 years from now? What are you going to remember?
I'm going to remember that I was the first woman down power line. 20 miles into the race, that was the deciding move. Not for me, but for the lead group, which eventually turned into my win.
And so were you thinking at that moment, I mean, just 24 miles into the race, I think I might win?
No, I was thinking I had a shot at the podium, but I went to sleep the night before the race knowing that Powerline was going to be where this race was going to happen.
When did you start thinking, I think I got this?
I don't know. So many emotions. There were so many emotions. I didn't want to think about it because it honestly made me cry. And it's not a good feeling when you're trying to exert yourself to the max and you're crying.
Oh yeah, hard to cry, bad time to cry. But I mean, you were not just dialing this in and thinking you had it in there. I saw video and have heard you tell the story. You were literally groaning in pain from cramps on some of the late climbs in this race.
Yeah, pretty much for the final 50 miles. So from Columbine in, every time there was an extended descent followed by any kind of incline, I would immediately cramp for about 45 seconds, and I just rode through it. And I mean, I was screaming. I mean, maybe not screaming, but I was wailing, and I had nothing. I had to. It was everything. I have never emptied myself like that.
First of all, congratulations from me. It was wonderful to see you at the finish line on the podium, spraying champagne all over everybody. That was a very cool moment. A lot of athletes will use kind of try to envision how the day is going to play out or how a race is going to play out. And I'm sure you've played it over in your head, not only in the week leading up to this 100, but years past too. I imagine this has been a dream race for you. So how close was it to how you envisioned it happening, should it ever happen to you?
I don't even think that I could ever imagine what happened yesterday. It was not a vision that I had in mind. I got away from Sophia and Michaela, who ended up second and third. I got away from them in the lower parts of Columbine. We're talking not even a mile up the climb. I was completely alone. And that is never where I thought I would go. I didn't want to be alone. That's way too early.
So where did you think, though? You must have had thoughts about winning this race one day.
Yeah, but I don't know if I ever envisioned how that would be possible. Maybe like in my mind, it would be from a descent. Like I went over Keevens the fastest, and I descended a little bit faster than whoever I was with. And this is inbound, my imagining of it. And then the drag up the boulevard would have solidified it or something like that. Never in a million years would I have thought it would have been 50 miles in with 50 miles to go.
You're right. That's a long one. You and I discussed afterwards, and you rightly corrected me that in the women's field, it usually does not happen on Columbine as far as somebody getting away.
Yeah, I mean,
it's usually later in the race.
I mean, as far as I know, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that apart from last year when Sophia won, the race usually was not won by the woman that was first up Columbine. So that was playing in my head as I was climbing, which is not a good thought.
So you had what has to be, by an objective measure, a magic day on the race, but not everything went perfect. What went wrong during this race?
You're completely right. I mean, honestly, my lead up for this race was perfect. I had targeted this race from January 1. I knew this was going to be my A plus race of the year. And I was ready. I was prepared. I had dialed in my feeding. I had dialed in my equipment. I was climbing better than I ever had before. I was good on the flats. But that did not stop me from suffering so much from cramping in the second half of the race. I mean, apart from the cramps, I was on a magic day.
I will say, and we'll talk more about this in future episodes, but we knew about your day as it was happening from friends and from texts and from crew. Hottie was telling us, Blake was telling us, and so we were celebrating your amazing day while we were racing it, which was a pretty amazing experience. So what is next for you? Because I understand you are not just the women's champion for 2024 in Leadville 100 and the Leadville 100 stage race, but you are looking for a new team, right?
Yeah, so I've been a part of Team 2024, an Olympic development squad, mostly for track cycling, for the last 3 years. And next year, I'm looking to head my way full-time on the dirt.
And before we push Team 24 aside, they actually do a great job of developing cyclists for drop bar events like track and road, and they put you on the road for a while. How much of that work on the road helped yesterday out there on the Leadville course?
Oh my gosh. I won this race because of my experience on the road. I would have never won without it. I knew how to position. I knew how and when to use my energy. I knew how to read other riders, and it was everything. And, you know, instead of doing Unbound this year, I actually went to 11 days of crits in preparation for climbing in the mountains. Right. And I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah.
So in the very near rear view mirror is the Leadville 100. In the very close up to the windshield, next week, less than a week from now, Steamboat Gravel. What are you hoping to do there?
Honestly, I haven't even started thinking about it yet. I'm just living in the moment.
All right. I think you're allowed to celebrate for a day before you start worrying about next week's gravel race. Melissa, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now all that's left is the top step out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Her first race here ever in 2016. She's now the champion. Give it up for Melissa Rollins.
Hottie, we of course focused this show on regular citizen racers, and Melissa's story actually fits right into that. 8 years ago, she struggled to finish at all. And while talent plays a part in her victory this year, I would say relentless hard work, dedication, and iterative improvement are what made her the fastest woman in Leadville this year. There's a whole story left that she has to tell, and I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, I too am looking forward to the blow-by-blow of how Melissa was first up that red carpet. You know, last year, Keegan's record was all the buzz at the finish line. But this year, when I got back to 6th and Harrison, even though Keegan had again blitzed the course, Melissa owned the day, and rightfully so.
Of course, the feed is one of Melissa's loyal sponsors. You can see that on her helmet in every race she does. And they've been with our show as well, every single episode right from the beginning. What is funny is what wound up being the biggest part of my nutrition plan this year stemmed from a misunderstanding I had with Melissa earlier this year. Melissa mentioned liking Styrker. I always say Striker because hard for me to say Styrker, but Styrkr. And she mentioned that in a spot on this show. And since I'd never tried or heard of that brand, I went to the feed at thefeed.com/Leadville, checked them out, and bought a couple boxes of their Gel 50. They arrived in a couple days, and the Hammer and I actually fell in love with that product. They're great tasting. They were easy to get down. They were easy on the stomach for big, long rides. And I like them enough that I ordered enough of them to make them my primary carb source for the whole race. What is funny is that Melissa actually was recommending the Styrkr Bar 50, which I did not figure out until I was in Leadville and had told her that those, that we were all in on her favorite product. And she's like, no, actually, I use a different gel. I like their bar, but I was all in. It was too late. By then, it was too late to switch, and the Hammer and I raced using a combo of the Styrkr and PF30 gels, along with Scratch Super High Carb Drink Mix, which, spoiler alert, worked great for both of us. So my confusion, it worked out great for us in the end, and I am actually planning to continue integrating these gels into my future racing and to try out the Styrkr Bar 50 that Melissa actually recommends at some point in the future.
On behalf of Melissa, Dad, are you listening to me? Jeez, Fatty.
I know.
Whether you're planning out your 2025 race or just training or just randomly mistaking one product for another, like Fatty here, you can find a huge array of athlete nutrition products at a great price, along with a $20 quarterly credit by going to thefeed.com/Leadville. Like you said, Fatty, this was the 30th riding of the Leadville 100, and we're going to celebrate that in this episode, along with our look at the results and those standout finishes. But first, let's go to the start line and see how some of you were feeling before that shotgun blast. What's your name again?
Bryant Blanchard,
Bryant Blanchard, and you are from?
Provo, Utah.
Provo, Utah. Excellent. Tell me about getting into Leadville. Why and how'd you do it?
I have a buddy who about a year ago said, I want to do something crazy. I'm going to ride Leadville. I said, what's Leadville? He said it's a mountain bike race. It's about 100 miles. I said, sounds like fun. So I bought a mountain bike for Christmas. Had my first ride in March. Just been pedaling like crazy since then.
And what have you learned between March and now?
It's a lot harder than it sounds. Climbing is hard, and I wish I was 40 pounds lighter.
We all do. You look well equipped, though. I mean, you got the Specialized going and carbon wheels, so that's going good. Tell me about, crewing. I know you haven't been here before, but crewing's kind of been turned on its head a little bit. So how did you set up your crew?
I'm borrowing crew from another guy, and so I don't have any family here. I'm sort of self-supporting. I got a couple bags. I've dropped off a couple places. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Do you know, where are they? Where do you have them stationed?
Mile 40, mile 60, and then around mile 80.
Okay.
So
That's good.
It'll be cool.
Yeah. Do you have so you're in the Brown Corral, which isn't all bad, but do you have a time in mind?
11 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds.
Okay, just don't cut it that close, Brian, okay?
I'm trying to beat it by at least a minute. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. We'll see you at the finish line. Pedal strong.
Thanks.
Watch your front wheel.
Thanks so much.
Okay. All right, Brian, thanks. What's your name?
Michael Johnston,
Michael Johnston, where are you from?
Monument, Colorado.
Monument, Colorado. That sounds important. I don't know if it is.
I don't know. And yeah, it's a monument, I guess. It's really more of a truck stop, probably than anything else. But
Okay, you're in which corral? Again, remind me what corral this is. It's dark out.
we are in blue.
We are in blue. Awesome.
Yes.
Have you done Leadville before?
Yes, I did. I did the mountain bike last year, and I did the run 2 years before that.
Okay. Tell me about your crewing strategy, because they've kind of turned it on its head a little bit. So what are you doing?
I'm old school. I stuck with Pipeline, which are now calling outbound alternate. So I've got a crew at Pipeline. I got a crew at what they call Lost Canyon, and I call it Twin Lakes alternate.
Okay. Did you use Twin Lakes alternate last time you did the mountain?
Yes.
All right. Have you heard? Has your crew been able to get out there? Are you worried about the traffic that's going out for your crew? I mean, supposedly there might be more cars out there.
Yeah. Not really. We went out last night and set up a canopy in Pipeline, and that all went well. It wasn't nearly as crazy as last year because it's not an aid station this year, and we didn't have a problem setting up over at Lost Canyon either. So we're all good.
Oh, you left stuff at Lost Canyon, huh?
Last night, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're
Very
all
good.
good.
Okay, good. Do you have a time in mind?
Last year I did it in 11 flat, and I'm hoping for something more like 10.
Beautiful. That sounds like some improvement to me, right?
Yeah.
You gonna do it?
Yeah, that's my plan. I had some issues last year. Hopefully no issues this year.
Okay. All right. We'll see you at the finish line.
Yeah, hey, howdy, man. Good seeing you, man.
What's your name?
My name is Sarah.
Sarah, the last name, and where are you from?
Sarah Rondorf. I'm from Andover, Minnesota.
Awesome. You must have gone through the Lutsen 99er to get here?
I actually got in on a lottery, but I did Lutsen to try to get a corral.
Okay, and that worked?
It did. I made it to blue.
You're in blue, which is great.
Yep.
Do you have a time in mind this morning?
I'm hoping for 10. Would be a good shot for me today, I think. Coming from Minnesota flatland and 500 feet elevation, I'm going to try.
Yeah, that's a big dilemma for folks, all across this country. Like, if they're not out west, climbing becomes... So how did you do that? How did you get ready for hills?
We went down to the driftless area of Minnesota, and we did 3.5, 4, 5 hours of hill repeats up and down to try to get at least some climbing in for us. We don't have long extended climbs the way that you do up in the mountains, so we just had to go up, turn around.
All right, well, that's fine. It works, right? You're just getting the best shape you can. Have you done Leadville before?
I have not. I'm a rookie. I'm a newbie.
So how did you figure this thing out?
I'm still figuring it out. I think naive bliss is going to be a beautiful thing. We got out here a little bit early, got to see the course a little bit. We did the big climbs. We did Keevens, Sugarloaf, down Power Line, and then we did Columbine.
And how did that look to you? What were your impressions right away?
Less scary than I expected. I got it. I think it felt a lot better once you had it in your mind.
How about crewing? I mean, where do you have your stops planned?
Crewing, I've got family. My son, nephew, and a good friend of ours is going to be at Twin Lakes waiting for us for the most part.
So on the dam?
Yeah, on the dam, Twin Lakes Dam.
And how are they getting out there?
They're taking the shuttle.
Oh, okay, all right. You confident in the shuttle?
I am right now. They're here early, so they'll get out there and just get settled, was the plan.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck, and we will see you at the finish line.
Thank you. I will be there.
By the way, that's a beautiful jersey you're wearing.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. It's the Leadville podcast, pink and purple jersey. Everybody's going to be able to see me.
Yep. Okay, we'll see you too.
All right. Thank you. Bye, Hottie. Have a great day.
How about we talk to the husband too?
Sure, go for
it. Okay. What's your name?
I'm Jeremy Rondorf.
Jeremy Rondorf, also from Minnesota.
Also from Minnesota, yes.
Your first time?
First timer.
So this is a nice kind of couples thing. Is that what's going on here?
It is. Couples race.
Yeah. Do you both have the same time in mind? You're going to ride together?
She's faster than I am. I'll say it right now.
Awesome. You obviously have no ego.
No, not at all. I know my place.
Okay.
So
So
I'm the crew guy.
and the training was the same for you? You just worked on what hills you could find in Minnesota to get ready for this thing?
Yeah, our whole 250 feet to climb. Yeah, that's about it.
That's it, huh?
250 to 300 feet. Yeah, it's very little. Repeat. That's about it.
Yeah. Now I'm loving this this kind of holster you have for your goo gels. I haven't seen this before.
Usui, yeah, it's a Usui little gel extras just in case I need them on the ride.
Oh, just right on the shoulder there. You can yank them out real quick.
So I don't have to grab them in the back just in case. I don't know. It's easy access.
Okay.
Like Patty says, eat.
Yeah, it's eating and drinking. That's what you have to do today. So just remember that. And then so 10 hours for your lovely lady here. Are you hoping to be close to that?
11 hours and hopefully faster than 11, but right around 11, 10:30, 11. Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys have a great day.
Yeah.
This
Thank
will
you
make
very
the
much.
marriage stronger, right?
We hope so.
We made it this far after all the training.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good to meet you.
So, Hadi, of course, I wanted to know how did all of these people do? And so I looked them up, and Bryant Blanchard of Provo, Utah, neighboring town to where I live, did finish the race, getting his buckle at 11 hours, 26 minutes. Congratulations to him. Michael Johnston of Monument, Colorado, which he is the monument that he calls a truck stop, starting from the Blue Corral, improved his time by a whopping 2 minutes. You know, we will take any improvement we can get. We are fans of marginal gains. Last year's time, 11 hours on the nose. This year, 10 hours, 58 minutes. And then this one I loved. I love that you talked with Sarah Rondorf in Minnesota, who did her climbing by essentially doing tiny little hill repeats. She and the Hammer and I wound up riding big chunks of this race together and had a confusing moment because in the fog of racing, she actually conflated you and me and was talking to me about the interview that you had just conducted with her. And I was absolutely baffled because, you know, she says, "Oh, I'm Sarah. You've interviewed me for the show." And I'm thinking Sarah Bloom, who we have had on the show, and I'm completely baffled because she looked nothing like Sarah Bloom. So I was trying to piece this puzzle together, never successfully did, until she messaged me on Facebook after the race saying, "Oh, this is what happened." Nevertheless, it was a pleasure riding with her and a huge congratulations. We raced with her the whole day. She finished with essentially the same time as the Hammer and me, 3 of us wearing the Leadville FM kit together. Looked like we were a team. 10 hours, 13 minutes. Congrats, Sarah.
And finally, her husband, Jeremy Rondorf, also with a good time, 11 hours and 21 minutes, 29 seconds, roughly, you know, pretty close to what he was shooting for. So, Sarah, and like he said in the interview, Sarah is the faster of that couple. So congratulations to the Rondorfs. Now, in addition to, a lot of people with goals out there, we had people dealing with a kind of a new crewing situation, right? So we asked a number of people about crewing this year as it presented a twist in how we operate and station our crews. Fanny and I responded by changing our plans, which had been almost set in stone, right? Mrs. Hadi and I decided instead of fighting what we thought would be more traffic and parking at Twin Lakes Alternate, aka Lost Canyon, we opted for the dam. Now, we had an advantage, folks. We had a parking pass, so we were able to bypass the new shuttle system. Now, like many, though, who were on the dam this year, when setup rolled around on Friday, we were just completely flabbergasted, surprised when we got out there during that first hour of setup to find almost every spot taken. In fact, I heard from a race series volunteer who was out there that cars were lined up as early as 10 in the morning to get into the feed zone for that 2 p.m. early setup on Friday.
Yeah, folks out there lined up waiting for, as if they were getting tickets to a movie premiere, a concert, or the latest high-tech phone. It was pretty remarkable. if it were not for our friend of the show, Ray Landry, I don't know if we would have got a space. So thank you, Ray. I would say that worked out great for the Hammer and me. It was very easy to find you. We just looked for the tent on the corner. It was tight, I understand, and at the very end of the feed zone, we made do. The handoffs went flawlessly. Thank you so much for that. And I've now taken feeds in my history of racing at the Mountain View Day use area. I've taken them at the dam and at the alternate. I will say, I think that the Mountain View is the one that is my favorite. The Hammer and I talked about that a fair amount during the race, saying, it is really nice to get the feed, our first feed, a little bit sooner in the race instead of at the our traditional Twin Lakes alternate, where you stop, get something to eat, and just about the time you start cooling down, it is up to Columbine, and it feels like a little bit of a punch in the gut. So a feed a little bit sooner, so that you warm back up by the time you hit Columbine. I think I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think we owe ourselves a future breakdown of how to handle feeds there, because there's so many strategies now with essentially, between the turnaround in the race and the finish line, you have 4 crew zones now where you can mix and match how you set those up. So it's certainly worth some more analysis, because there's lots of different ways to slice that pie. As far as the shuttles go, I asked around at the dam and found no complaints. We also asked on the Facebook participants page, and the shuttle reviews there were generally positive, although one racer noted that having a shuttle running from the start-finish area would have been nice. Crew members who got to Outward Bound said they were able to hop right on and make it to the dam on time or even early. Here's a quick interview I did with Ed Rader, who summed up what he heard and found out about the shuttles. Ed Rader, where are you from, Ed Rader?
West Virginia, Davis, West Virginia, Canaan Valley.
And you're out here supporting a rider, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Who's the rider?
Vicky Weeks.
Vicky Weeks, and what's she shooting for?
Getting a buckle. The small buckle, but getting 12 hours or less.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I ran into you out here at Twin Lakes Dam, and there have been a lot of changes. By the way, have you folks been to Leadville before for the race?
She raced last year.
Okay, cool. What did she tell you about the experience as far as crewing?
Well, I was on her crew last year as well. And we had 2 crews last year, 1 crew this year.
Okay, so last year, of course, we were free to drive to the places we wanted to be. This year we had shuttles. So tell me about the difference for you as a crew member, your experience with now being on shuttles.
I felt the shuttle worked very well. Last year as a crew, I was at Pipeline. I helped come out the day before to Twin Lakes where the other crew set up, and I helped that. But I didn't come out the day of the race. But today, the shuttle, I thought, went very smoothly.
How did you time things? Like, as you folks are planning it out, what time did you get to Outward Bound, and how long did it take to get over here?
It did. Since this was the first year, I was a little concerned. I didn't want to be late. She's also not at the front of the pack. So we could have actually taken more time. As it was, the shuttle went so smoothly, we got out here well before we needed to be.
What time were you at Outward Bound this morning?
We were at Outward Bound by 8.
Okay. Yeah, we saw you shortly after that, I think.
Yeah.
You're camped here next to us. We're neighbors for the day, so I want to thank you, too, for sharing space here. We appreciate that. Would if everything goes smoothly for the rest of the day, would you hesitate in using the shuttles again?
No, would not hesitate using the shuttle. There is setting up here the day before. There is almost not as much space as there is demand for space here.
Yeah,
so it is tight.
You and I both noticed that by the time 250, 255 rolled around on Friday, all the spots were taken.
Yes.
Right, it was kind of shocking.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we both got spots. We're both taking care of riders, so I guess in the end it all worked out.
Yes,
right.
And it's a great event.
Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on crewing and the new shuttle system.
Thank you.
We also got a lot of feedback on the participants page about all of these changes. In general, crew members loved Outward Bound. There was plenty of parking. It was easy to carry out a feed there. Racers were maybe a little bit more mixed on that section. They loved having crew and neutral aid there, but there was a little bit of grumbling about the condition of the trail or lack of conditioning on the trail. What was sold as a new piece of single track ended up being a double track through mown grass. My own personal opinion was that it was fine. There was, by the time I got there, and especially on the time I got back inbound, there was a well burned in primary trail and a good passing secondary trail. There were a few places where there were just little dips where maybe there was a trench or a hard wheel had gone through maybe during muddy times or maybe just running water. But it was just, a quick little push through, to make sure that your suspension fork is on and go through. It was fast. I don't think that it affected my finish time by any. Honestly, my distance was the same. The amount of time I was there was the same. And I really liked the fact that it seemed that I was not in a hard wind as much because it seemed like instead of it being a weird crosswind, it was a wind where you were, I don't know, it just did not seem as intense. That might have actually been down more to weather than the trail. But I liked it. It didn't seem as, I don't know, as difficult to get through mentally. Maybe that's the part of it where when you're on that pavement and it just seems like it stretches to the horizon, Hottie. When you turn onto dirt, it's not quite the same, right? It's bending a little bit. You're riding a little bit. It focuses your mind a little bit instead of just going, oh, I'm going to be on this pavement until I die.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing about the Leadville 100. We can always compare year to year. The course largely stays the same. So any small change seems maybe a little bigger than it really is. And this is really not a very big change at all. We also asked around about Twin Lakes Alternate, which seemed on paper like it would bear the brunt of a lot of car traffic this year because so many people were being told they had to shuttle to the dam. There were mixed reviews on Twin Lakes Alternate. Some said it was orderly, while others called the scene more packed and chaotic. And it was actually short on porta potties, too. That was a big complaint this year. Now, look, I've been out to Twin Lakes Alternate I don't know how many times and crewed there. There have never been enough portos out there. I've always had to stand in line. So I don't know how much different it was this year compared to last. Maybe lines were longer. It seems like we could always use more porta potties. By the way, Ed Rader, the guy we interviewed, his racer, Victoria Weeks, did make it home. Her time was 12:50, so no buckle, but glad she got back to 6th and Harrison.
And Envy, I will say, was back at the expo this year, and lots of folks I saw with Envy wheels, stems, bars on the course. It was funny that Envy had their full lineup of drop bar bikes on display at the expo, but and they've obviously got a lot to be proud of with those bikes. The Melee won a stage at the Tour de France. The Frey made its debut earlier this year, and the Mog was looking very, very nice.
But if you look closely, Fatty, you may have noticed one other piece of Envy bling, and it's something that should matter to mountain bikers. Kind of without a lot of fanfare, Envy had its new XC wheel set up on a lone mountain bike in its booth. Now, these wheels are still not available, but sounds like they are in the final stages of prototyping. Is that a word? I don't know if you can make prototype a verb, but I just did. Anyway, they're no longer a secret. Envy has been working on them for a while now, maybe a couple years. So hopefully by the time you start thinking about your next Leadville 100, you can also order the latest XC wheel from Envy.
And in the meantime, I can tell you that my brand new M525s performed great under my custom Thai Firefly. If you need a set of wheels right now, I say get them. I did. You can find wheels and more great carbon components at Envy, that is ENVE.com.
Okay, let's get to that finish line and check some times. It's kind of a tradition with a post-race show to highlight the days of some of the people who have helped us, help you. These are guests we've had on, people who have done research for us, for instance, or just racers we know and love to follow. There were 1,738 of you out there on the start line. 1,459 made it to the finish. 1,373 made it home in under 12 hours.
And it is ladies first this year. You heard us mention the winner of the women's pro race, someone the Hammer and I were following as we raced, and that's Melissa Rollins. Her time was 7 hours, 10 minutes. Holy cow. Now, we're going to do a full show with Melissa, so we'll save the details of that for that episode.
2022 champ, two-time guest on this show this season, in fact. Hannah Otto was 8th overall, 8th pro, that is, to cross the line in 7 hours, 28 minutes, 48 seconds. Not a pro, but she beat a lot of them, and that is Natalie Dyksterhouse, 16th place with a 7:47. We had Natalie on last year. She had big plans for the Leadville 100. Actually wanted to win the event, but came up with an injury and never could make it to the start line. So congrats, Natalie, for getting there and getting it home in a great time. One of my favorite finish line interviews ever, got in 15th place in the pro category with a 7 hour, 51 minute, 41 second time. And that is Sarah Sturm. You'll remember Sarah. We interviewed her a couple years ago. She talked about hitting a cow on the Keenan's descent. No cow collisions this year. She had a relatively clean ride, but she's, I think, still looking for that Leadville win.
Oh, that seriously was one of the best finish line interviews I have ever heard. I'll take this next one, Hottie. I rode with her all day. Lisa, the Hammer Nelson, finished her 19th Leadville 100 in a time of 10 hours, 14 minutes, 47 seconds. I was with her the whole day. Roxanne Hall, the only woman up until next year who has finished more than 20 Leadville 100s, finished within 11 hours and 12 minutes. The Hammer and I got a chance to say hi to her during the race on Hagerman. It's funny how, certain people you notice immediately and want to ride up and say hi. I mean, Roxanne could be signing autographs the whole race if she felt like it. She is such a positive presence on the course. True legend.
Yeah, she got a huge round of applause at the athletes meeting as well. Almost as big as Ty Hall, her husband, who we'll get to his time in a second. Now, to the man. And like we said, no record for Keegan, but he did get around that course in 5 hours, 49 minutes, which is the second fastest time in Leadville history. Obviously, he was first on the day. He was one of 4 pros as well, Fatty, to race on drop bars. Maybe this was the year of drop bars. Who knows? Russell Finsterwald, Keegan's good buddy, got around on drop bars and a kind of a full suspension Trek bike, 6 hours, 12 minutes, 50 seconds. He was 6th overall in those drop bars. Dylan Johnson, friend of the show, marginal gainer, 6 hours, 29 minutes, 25 seconds, full suspension drop bar bike. And the final drop bar entry was Corey Wallace. He finished the day 6 hours, 41 seconds, 6 hours, 41 minutes, I should say, 57 seconds. 28th pro. His bike was a drop bar bike, but it was a gravel bike with front suspension. Now, one of the favorite guys we've had on this show, he's a sometime mountain biker, a great schemo racer, probably the greatest America's ever seen, and he just shows up to Leadville and torches the place. He was second. John Gaston was second pro man. Again.
Yeah.
So he's had a second, a third, and a second in consecutive years at Leadville. 6 hours, 4 minutes, and 51 seconds. When I was standing in Twin Lakes Dam, he actually came through first with a nice gap. Now, Keegan had gotten a flat and had to go back to the chase group because he got a wheel change there and outward bound. But here comes John roaring through Twin Lakes Dam outbound. Keegan caught him on the climb and eventually dropped him. But damn, John, you're the greatest. We love you. Payson McKelvin, we've had him on the show too. He did one of our Q&A segments for us a couple seasons ago. Great ride for Payson. He was a 5th pro, 6 hours, 9 minutes. I think he's like second in the Lifetime Grand Prix standings too as well. He was just 3 seconds, in fact, behind Lachlan Morton as they came to the line. So nice tight race there. Todd Wells, he called himself retired to us, Fatty, I don't know, a couple seasons ago. He was the 30th. He was the 30th bro. He's still breaking 7 hours, 6 hours, 43 minutes, 33 seconds. He has a whole family life going on. He's got, all kinds of stuff in the air, and he comes out here and kills it anyhow. So congrats to Todd.
A hero.
I know. Alexi Vermillion, friend of the show. A tough day for him. He's a 56th pro overall in 7 hours, 43 minutes, 20 seconds. Alexi's had a busy summer. He had a wedding. I think his brother got married, so he's been off to a wedding. He spent time in Paris with his girlfriend who was in the Olympics. Not only that, he dropped, I think, Unbound because of the wedding, but transferred to another race in another discipline. He went and shot for the USA Stars and Stripes in the time trial, so he gave that a go. So it's been kind of a different summer for Alexi. We're sure he'll be back. He's too good of a racer not to be. And if
life gets in the way for pros as well as for the rest of us,
absolutely.
right?
Another huge friend of the show, and I've lost count of how many times he's been on this show. I did talk with him afterwards about his day, and that's Nate Whitman. I helped Nate in the feed zone a little bit, gave him a hand up. He has a friend out there, Esther, who was also helping him with feeds. We were kind of set doing the double feed there in Twin Lakes Dam. She gave him a bottle. I would give him something else. He comes roaring through. You remember last year, Nate had the big arm brace on and still broke 8 by a bunch. This year, he was faster again. This guy's incredible. You know, he's in his late 40s. He did a 7-hour, 15-minute, 51-second timer around Leadville. Looked fresh as a daisy afterwards, too. He's talking to me about his day. I mean, I swear he could have sat down and did an hour-long interview with me afterwards, having no problems at all. Nate, you are a Superman, that is for sure, and I was proud to hand you a feed. So congrats to Nate, friend of the show. We love you, Nate. Thanks for being there for us this season. Okay, Christian Bagg. You probably heard of this guy. 7 hours, 45 minutes, 45 seconds, 120th position overall, first in his division, and first time in 30 runnings of this race to complete the Trail 100, pedaling with his arms and hands. Now, we caught up with Christian at the finish line to talk about his special equipment and his special day. Okay, Christian Bagg. I actually saw you this afternoon out at Twin Lakes Dam. You were getting a feed and getting ready to push off. And I'm like, man, that is something. Now, the announcer here announced you as the only person ever in the 30-year history of this race to do this event with a handbike.
Yeah.
Right? First of all, you must be pretty darn proud of that.
Yeah, I am. I'm super happy, proud about that. It's a double proud. The bike, I own the company that makes the bike, and you know, more than my accomplishment, the things that people can do in these bikes and what we get from them that's what makes you feel amazing. And so to do this is a lot less about me and more about showing them that you can do this.
Right, that's kind of the bigger deal here, right? You're saying to a lot of folks out there, no matter what your challenge is,
come and play. Yeah, come and play, because that's like, these are your people. They're not different people. They're all people, and we all love riding bikes.
Okay, describe briefly for the audience, since they can't see you, your injury, and then the bicycle you came up with to overcome that.
Okay, yeah, so I broke my back in 1996, eons ago. I got 2 little kids. I have a business, and of the 3 things, it's harder to have kids in a business than break your back. But one of the things that makes it easier is we designed this bike. So company's called Bowhead Corp, and you can look it up and go to Instagram and YouTube and all that. But it's an e-bike, but it's a modern e-bike. So it's a pedal assist, it's a Bosch motor. So you've got to put effort in to get effort out. And your arms are about, a quarter or a third is as strong as a set of legs. And the bike's about 86 pounds. So it's pretty close at the end of the day, what you get out compared to what an able-bodied rider would get out. But the goal isn't to make it perfect, it's a different thing. So my time was my time today, and it doesn't take away from what anyone else did. And when there's 30 of us, then we'll be racing each other. But today was just about showing that it's a bike, and I can ride with all these awesome people, and they can ride with me.
So a couple other technical questions. Does it have suspension?
Yeah, so it's got about 3.5 inches of suspension up front on each wheel, about 5.5 in the back. And the big thing that you can't see, but where you'd have to go to the website for, is that it leans. So like, that's really important for traversing a side slope, leaning into a curve, like to a corner, or one wheel like a big rock or a rut, one wheel goes up and over, and you stay level. And one of the big things that does too is it allows you to be narrower like a bike. So on the single track section, I didn't have any problems, and I didn't have problems in ruts or keeping up, ripping down the Columbine Road.
So before your injury, were you a mountain biker?
I was, yeah. I had a Yoeti Fat Chance in the 90s with a Trek DS2 2-inch travel fork, and I loved it. I love biking. I've loved biking for my whole life, and after I broke my back, I took about a 20-year hiatus from being able to do it. So I couldn't be more core biking.
So it's 2 wheels up front, 1 in the back. Do you monitor your speed, and what kind of speeds did you hit today on the descents?
I'm, I think, at 70K an hour, which is, I think, about 40 mile. Yeah.
And how quick can you climb, say, up Columbine?
Well, Columbine, like fat, because I've got the motor, and I'm in shape. I work freaking hard for this for about a year, and this is my mojo. But I didn't look at my time, but I'm in the top 5 in Strava.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Describe what kind of reaction. It must be tremendous out there that you received.
Yeah, it really is. This was an amazing race. You always come into these things and you never know, because you got a motor and it's a different thing, and people train hard and they like their position, and if you pass someone, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. And I've felt everything, but today I only felt the awesome. It was, what a great group of people, and what a great vibe the Leadville 100 puts out. They set the stage. Yeah.
Well, Christian, congratulations. And least we not bury the lead. You did Big Buckle today, which is just absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. My little 5-year-old daughter was like, that's what she's waiting for. So I had no option.
Christian, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Leadville, let's make some noise for the first time ever in Leadville 100 history. 100 miles with his arms, Christian Bragg. Christian Bragg right there, look at that.
What a day and what an athlete. It was great to actually see this racer get onto the trail and get it done. And by seeing, I mean I saw him. He was flying down Columbine as I was, trudging my way up Columbine. He was that far ahead of me, and I was just blown away by this, first and only time I saw him. He was on the smooth part of the Columbine Trail, but he was going so fast. This is a man who really knows how to handle a bike. It was a pleasure to watch it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Wiggins brothers. We had them on the show. Was it last season, Hottie? It all blurs
Yeah, it was
together.
early. I know, it was early last season. We had Jackson and CJ on, yeah.
That's right. And they once again turned in some fantastic time. Jackson Wiggins, the youngest Wiggins of the racing Wiggins, got a 7 hours, 46 minutes, 22 seconds. Way to fly, Jackson. CJ Wiggins, 8 hours, 25 minutes, 44 seconds. That is fantastic. And the old man Wiggins, Devin Wiggins, not an old man, 9 hours, 27 minutes. Very fast time. Congratulations to him. Now, I want to talk about the people, two of the people around whom the celebration of the 30-year anniversary of this race centered. John Callahan, 7 hours, 55 minutes, 53 seconds. One of only 2 people to have done the Leadville 100 every time it has been raced. A sub-8. I believe that is the first sub-8 either of these 2 men have done. And he did this. Do you know exactly what their ages are? I think they are both in their 60s now.
Both in their 60s. I think they say it coming up here to us, but they're both in their 60s, yeah.
A couple of rocket ships is what they are. Todd Murray, 8 hours, 33 minutes. And so I want to say that I'm just, so amazed by these 2. They are inspiring. Hottie, you caught up with both at the finish and got some reflections on 6,000 miles of Leadville racing.
Gentlemen, if I could use an analogy on you real quick, I'm going to use a little baseball, just general sports analogy. Did it seem like to you guys were up 3-0 in a best-of-7 series, and all you had to do was win one more, and you had what you... I mean, it seems to me there was a lot of pressure on today, John.
Yeah, I don't know what the pressure is to win one more and, being up 3, being in the World Series, but yeah, there was some pressure, and I try and ignore it, and just try and tell myself go out and race another race. But yeah, there was the pressure there for sure to get that one done.
Todd, did you know this was waiting at the finish line for you, a big 3,000-mile buckle?
I was hoping it would be waiting for us at the finish, and several times yesterday people asked if I wanted to see it, and I said absolutely not until I finish, because it's not a guarantee that we were going to finish, and it was like I didn't want to jinx it. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I was joking with they have our name on them, engraved into it. I'm like, there's a little pressure right there when there's a belt buckle with your name on it. You don't want to have them throw it away because you didn't get it.
Or come back next year.
Yeah, no, you want to get it now.
Right. Did they get any easier, Todd?
No, well, wrong time to ask, because like John was saying, 30 had a lot of pressure with it, just like 20 and 10. So out of the 30, I think 3 have had pressure. All the rest I've just ridden, and I tried to ride that today. It was like John said, just another race. Yeah. Whatever we've been doing, it's been working, so just approach it like, hey, do what you've been doing. Nothing crazy today. Try to, check another finish.
Right. And both of you sub-9'd it today, so you really finished it off in glory. Give us a synopsis.
One of us sub-8'd it, and it wasn't me.
John, that would be you.
I put a PR up by, 12 minutes, I think, so I went under 8 for the first time.
And when was your PR prior to today?
2004.
Wow.
So,
2004, 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, I beat all my other 29 times. So, yeah, I was thrilled with that. I really put a big effort in, and I got to give a lot of credit to my family, especially my wife, Kathleen, because when I told her back in January I want to go under 8, she's like, go for it. I'll cook all the dinners, I'll do the dishes, so I would go out and train in the morning, come home, train after work. She'd feed me, I'd go to bed, do it all over again.
Yeah. Todd, how was your day?
So I was trying to repeat last year's, which was maybe my 4th fastest. I didn't have it today. I ended up a little over 8:30. I don't know what the exact time was. I felt okay all day long, and it's only the second time in 30 years I've had to put air into a tire. I've gotten a flat once, and I burped the tire today and had to put more air in coming down Kevens.
John, what's your secret to keeping it interesting, and what keeps you coming back?
Well, this year was the challenge of trying to go under 8. Before I started the first one back in '94, I was on the U.S. Nordic cross country ski team, and I retired in '94, and then I did this race and loved it and kept coming back. But I haven't been on a training plan since '94, and so I put myself back on a training plan, with the goal of going under 8, and I loved it. It was so much fun to have that focus again that I did 30 years ago when I was ski racing. Don't have the fitness I had back then. The VO2 has dropped a little bit. The max heart rate's way below then, but it was really fun to have that focus and a goal like that. So I don't know what I'm going to do next year. It might be hard to come back next year after giving a shot like this.
Oh, come on now. Todd, how about you? What keeps you coming back? What's the secret?
Every year's been different, from the first year just trying to finish, which turned into just trying to finish under 9, which turned into trying to PR every year, basically, but really not. I've ridden it with friends where we all stayed together, ridden it with my daughter Lauren 3 times, with my dad once. John hit the nail on the head today, was just to try to get the 30th, to try to get this buckle. So it's time to kind of reflect and see how the dust settles.
Yeah. To be able to come and put up a PR or put up your 4th best time, at our age, I'm really psyched that we're really not slowing down yet. Yeah. Those years probably aren't very far away, but right now, we're both staying fast.
Still with it a little bit, yeah. Hopefully we're helping redefine what's too old, right? Obviously in your 60s is not too old anymore. I think there was someone that was 80 today that started the race.
I hope he finishes.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if anyone over 80's ever finished.
I don't either, but he definitely pushing the boundaries, right? You can't use that excuse anymore. Oh, I'm too old for that.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a hell of a ride for both of you. Congrats to both of you. A great day, a great 30 years. You certainly deserve, everything, the buckles and more.
Oh,
Thanks, Hottie.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fatty, and they had the buckles at the finish line. I don't know if you got to see them. They are incredibly huge. It gives you something maybe to shoot for if you ever feel so inclined. The 3,000-mile buckle, there's only 2 of them. Todd Murray, John Callahan are the only guys to have them. Congrats to John and Todd on 30 editions of the Leadville Trail 100.
Yeah, a couple fun facts about these two. I keep spreadsheets. They haven't just finished the Leadville 100 every time it's been on offer. They've been very consistently fast. Todd Murray has an average finish time of 8 hours and 50 minutes. He averages sub 9 in his 30-year Leadville career.
And John isn't far behind with an average finish time of 9:08. As of last week, he's also the fastest. He has the fastest finish time of their combined 60 finishes with that sub 8 finish. That's faster than either of them has ever raced.
Yeah, amazing. Another Leadville legend, Ty Hall, the Dream Chaser, who starts at the back on purpose. He came in at 8 hours, 40 minutes, 8 seconds. He passed 1,474 riders. He has raised $105,000 for the Leadville Legacy Foundation, which rockets him past his lifetime goal of $500,000 raised. After 9 times as Dream Chaser, Ty's taking a break, or I don't know if it's retiring or just taking a break. He's allowed to do whichever he prefers. He's passing the torch to Jeff Spencer, who rode and finished with Ty, sort of a mentoring ride. Ray Landry, he's not just a friend of the show. He's one of the, I would say, 3 best friends of the show, along with Nate Whitman, always giving us good beta info on the race. Finished with a 9:11. Sheriff Heath Speckman, who is working on his, I believe, his 3rd Leadman finish. He finished with a 9 hours, 37 minutes. At the time we are recording, that means he's got a run coming up this Saturday, and boy, that is tough. Michael Iddings, who has been on the show, has a YouTube channel now. He finished with a 9:55. Congrats to him. And Doc Wenmark, what a story on this one. He has been working on his 20-hour 20 time finish for several years. Has kind of hit a wall. This year, he rode a bike with on tandem with Dr. Dan Hoops, a great foot surgeon. He finished his 19th Leadville 100 with a time of 10:09. It is worth noting that Bri Hoops, Dan's wife, swapped her stoker spot on the tandem with Doc and finished the Leadville 100 just riding on a regular old bike.
Very nice. Quite a gesture there. Okay, cool. Go Doc. I mean, next year will be number 20. Let's hope he gets there. And gets
him and the hammer.
Yeah.
That'll be two 20-year buckles that year. I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Hey, Dr. Justin Ross, do you remember he's been on the show a couple times talking about how to use the mental game to get back to the finish line. We did a great breakdown this year with Dr. Ross about, Ken's sayings and what they mean on a more clinical level. Dr. Ross, as he told us back then, raced the Leadville 100, and he must have used that stuff to his advantage because he got a buckle, 10 hours and 5 minutes. Congrats to Dr. Justin Ross. Some guy named Eldon Nelson, I just kind of came across his results. Eldon, he calls himself Fatty. No one calls him Fatty at the finish, like the race announcer just misses that. Came in at 10 hours and 14 minutes. Other people were hugging him and calling out his name. A nice blonde young girl came up. Who had flowers and said how proud she was of him. So I don't know if there's a mix-up there or something, but
there's probably a story there somewhere.
I think there is. I think there might be a little story there for this Eldon Nelson character. So we'll have to get back to him and see what he did to earn such adulation at the finish line.
I hear he's done 26 of these.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, how we ever missed him? I don't know. Okay.
He should do a podcast.
Jeff Leanhoutz. Jeff was on this show, season 4. Episode 13th. And the notable thing about that interview that Fatty and I both wrote down and have memorized it now is that Jeff is otherwise known as Mr. Subway Sandwich because on Twin Lakes Dam outbound, he makes sure that there's a Subway sandwich sitting at the dam for him so he can get off his bike and eat it. And then he moves on. Anyhow, this was Jeff's 28th Leadville finish. Yes, he got home again. He's next in line for a 30-year buckle. So we hope Jeff and the Subway sandwiches make it. By the way, his time this year was 11 hours, 22 minutes.
Yep. 2026 is going to be a very special year for Jeff Leanhouse. Ole Bangster. I'm sorry, Ole. I'm sure I'm not getting your name at all right. But from Sweden, he was the rider shown on the Race Series Instagram as the last official finisher at 11:59, 48 seconds. And that 48 seconds is crucial because on the Athlinks page, it says it was Justin Hart as the final official finisher at 11:59, 55 seconds. And the last to bring it home was Cliff Sharp at 13 hours, 1 minute, 0 seconds.
Okay, there were 19 18-year-olds who were entered in this year's race. 16 finished, 5 of them young ladies. We had 11 big buckles amongst the 18-year-olds, including 1 sub-7 finish. Matthew Murado came in at 6 hours, 42 minutes. Alexandra Charles was the first young lady on the day at 7 hours, 49 minutes, 20 seconds.
You know, either one of those would be the winning time not so long ago. That is amazing. I love that. On the other side of the age spectrum was 80-year-old James Wagner, who came in at 11 hours, 9 minutes. It's not like he was just barely squeezing by. He had almost an hour of buffer time. That is amazing. That put him in 1,112th place and faster than 261 other racers.
Wow.
I want to mention one racer who did not start, and I want to talk about why. Our friend and former guest in a previous season, Chris Smith, did not start the Leadville 100 this year because he had just barely finished the Great Divide race. This is a huge accomplishment for anyone, but Chris did it without the benefit of vision. Yet he documented his journey with extraordinary videos and photos. I want to recommend to everyone, check out his journey on YouTube. Blind Guy Biking. Just go to YouTube, search that.
All right, Fatty, I got to say we look good out on course today, and for once, we matched. You, the Hammer, and me all had on this year's pink and blue Leadville podcast jersey by DNA.
That's right. Our jersey, which was expertly and beautifully designed by DNA, made it easy to spot you in the feed, and when the Hammer and I would get separated out on course, we were always able to find each other and catch back up. You know, the Hammer and I weren't really going for a particular time this year, just a good time. We were, and a finish, of course. So comfort was king on this day. We were both comfy in our DNA jerseys, and that is important on a long day on the bike. You don't want a jersey that is either sloppy or too tight or cutting into your armpits. That's why I was super happy right into the 10th hour in my DNA jersey.
Like we said many times on the show, look good, feel good. That's what DNA can do for you. And if you'd like to celebrate your Leadville experience in a unique way, get a custom order going with DNA. They can do jerseys, like you saw Fatty and I wearing, and complete kits and or T-shirts. Check them out at dnacycling.com. The 2024 Pro winners, as you probably heard, are Melissa Rollins and Keegan Swinson. Melissa and Keegan are the 30th winners of the event. The race series was putting on a 30th anniversary celebration of sorts during race weekend, and as part of that, they had the first winners of the Leadville 100 in town to help remember how it all began. Fatty and I got a chance to talk to John Stamstead and Lori Brandt on the eve of the race, and here's that discussion.
John Stamstead, Lori Brandt. Oh, it is such a pleasure to have the two of you here for a second. So, you racing tomorrow?
I am not racing tomorrow. I'm here to support.
No, not racing, but I don't rule it out in the future. Would love to come back and ride it.
So if you were racing, not tomorrow, but in the future, what would you change from 30 years ago to where you were to what you'd ride now?
Well, obviously, the bikes are better. I don't know that I would change. Like everything went well for me, so I wouldn't there's nothing glaring that I would change. Like nutritionally, we're much more on top of it now, especially leading up to an event. You can monitor, like I do. I don't even compete, and I still do a blood test once every couple months just to keep an eye on things. And I think that's kind of a game changer in terms of performance.
How about you, Lori? What kind of bike? How would your equipment? What did your equipment look like back then, and what would you go with now?
Oh, well, back then it was 26-inch wheels. It was at Excel Steel. most things back then where they were titanium or they were steel chromoly, right, or aluminum, all had pretty harsh rides to them, hardtails. I think one year I used a suspension seat post, but I don't know if it was worth the wait. Nowadays, I love my bike. It's a pivot, full suspension, carbon wheels, carbon frame. It's got electronic shifting, seat post dropper. I would keep all that on there. Hydraulic disc brakes. Back then it was rim brakes. It was a triple crank. Now you have one by. And so you don't have a front shifter, right? You don't have a front derailleur. So the bikes are lighter, they're more responsive, they're cushier, so all those washboards and potholes and rocks and things, the course isn't terribly technical, but if you have a bike that takes off the edge, it makes a big difference on your pedaling efficiency and just your fatigue. I know that the old forks of those days, it just took a beating on my hands, just like riding a pogo stick. And, nowadays the forks are much more dialed in and plush. So you couldn't pay me to ride that bike I rode in 94 today because the newer bikes are just such a joy and to ride and so efficient and just make the experience so much better.
So I want to ask you a follow-up question too about the race and what you saw in 1994. The race back then, I guess it was about a tenth of the size it is now. Now we know, Fatty and I know from counting all the participants and looking at all the names, that this race gets about a 10% participation by women. What did it look like back in 1994? Did you see anybody who was in to race against or in your category?
There were no other professional women who raced in 94, 95. They started picking it up, I think, in the 2000s. And then I think since then they have been. I think social media has made a big difference. It's gotten the word out about this race and made it more accessible to people. So I think that helps. But I also think women need to reach out to other women, and help promote, what this event can do for them. It's changed my life. I know it can change a lot of other women's life. And one thing I would just add about why I think women can do really well in an endurance event like this, we're built for it. We're built for carrying a baby for 9 months, right? And then you birth it, and then you raise it for the next 20 years. Or longer, and that's an endurance event. Motherhood is an endurance event. We're built for it. We store fat. We know how to burn fat. I think we have efficient body systems. We're lighter weight, so we have a high strength to weight. If you train for it. So I think women are well equipped for endurance events, and it's just a matter of knowing about it, training for it, riding with other people to learn the technique, and I think you'd see more women doing it.
One interesting thing is that the sport in general is so much more approachable now, because you can learn everything that you need to know about this from YouTube. Whereas, 30 years ago, if you didn't devote your whole life to it or have a close personal friend who also did it, where would you go? How many calories an hour do you eat? That just wasn't, available information. So I think that end of technology has really helped make it be more approachable to different classes of people.
So John, you're no stranger to iconic events. I remember growing up being mesmerized by you on the Eco Challenge. And when you did the Leadville 100 for the first time, did it occur to you that this thing would last and be huge 30 years later?
I did. As soon as I heard that they were doing it, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a huge event and super popular. I thought it had the the marathon running of the 70s was such a huge sport because it was something just to finish. It was a huge accomplishment just to say I ran a marathon. And you get the same thing with biking, an ultra marathon, because only one person gets to win the overall, and then you've got a couple of classes that people pay attention to. But then there's 1,500 other people that need to go home with some satisfaction, and having that sense of achievement at having just finished, everybody gets the same thing in that.
And Laurie, I noticed you're wearing a sweatshirt right now with a 7:58 finish, a sub-8 finish. That is remarkable. How did you do that?
I raced a lot. Back then, you didn't have a Garmin watch and didn't have a coach and didn't have a heart rate monitor, didn't have power meters like you do today. There's a lot more that can help people train for that. But I think it was just a lot of racing, through the years. And I also didn't overtrain. That year in particular, that was 97, and I had done it in 94 and 95. And so I knew the course, I knew what to expect, knew what to eat. That was something that John touched on. It's like you have to find the food that works for you. And then I just had the ride of my life, and I told the group earlier today, that was of the hundreds of races I have done of all different distances, that was the ride of my life. I just had the day, the stars aligned, everything was right. My training, my bike, the weather, the conditions of, it was like the year before or the year after it had rained a lot. And so it was actually muddy and spongy and slow. The course was slow. And this was like, it had rained earlier in the week and then like perfect hero dirt, And so I just think everything lined up perfectly for me, and I would just add that was the race where I rode over 50 miles completely by myself. I was just riding in a zone. I was riding with 2 other guys starting into the climb of Columbine, and pretty soon one guy peeled off, and then pretty soon the next guy peeled off, and it's like, I guess I'm by myself, and the other 2 times I did it, I was in the top 20. And I figured that's kind of where I was. And I figured, well, I'll figure it out when they start coming towards me and I can count, right? And so I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I got to 6, I could see the turnaround. And I was number 7. And then did the turnaround. The lift that gave me, just emotionally and physically. And they were cheering for me. And when I turned around, people could see what position I was in. And they were cheering for me. And I was cheering for them. Just like an amazing human experience, athletic and human experience. And then I rode the entire rest of the race by myself. I never caught number 6, and number 8 never caught me. And so, when I was coming off of St. Kevin's, and I saw that all my splits didn't mean anything anymore because they were for an 8:30 time. So I really wasn't paying attention. I was like, I'm going to win. It's okay. Just keep going. You're feeling great. But then I realized with about a half an hour to go, I could break 8 hours, but I would have to give 100%. And so I just, I'd grip shift at the time, the throttle shifter, and stood up and went as hard as I could. But I had that moment when I said, no, you can just finish. It's okay. It'll still be okay. But I also said, but don't regret it. You'll never be here again. You'll never have these stars aligned like this. And you don't want tomorrow to wake up and go, why didn't I try? Or, a year from now or 30 years from now, you know what I mean? So that was where, my comment to the group was, don't have any regrets. Like if you're out there and you have to make a decision, go for it. And no regrets, and then you can have the ride of your life.
Yeah. John, any words of wisdom for folks who are doing what you did in 1994, just walking into this thing, not really knowing what's going to happen? What would you tell those folks?
Well, expanding on what I said, this morning at the rider meeting, everybody spends a ton of time on the bike and the gear because it's super fun. And they spend, a decent amount of time on nutrition and training. But your brain is an organ just like your heart is, and you need to spend time training that too. And attitude, having a positive attitude is so fueling. Dopamine is the drug of currency in cycling. And if you are feeling like you're ticking off, you're doing better than expected, you will feel so much better, and it just gets exponentially better. And there's the other side of that too. If you make goals that are, too big and you're not hitting them, well, then you get really down on yourself. And now you're going to have a negative race, even though you can only do what you can do. Your best is all you can do, and I think you're much better off. Just go into it, do the best you can, and be proud of yourself and be happy.
So you were both amazing athletes of your time and now. If you were on a bike of today at that time, what do you think your finish time would have been?
I don't know. Like the fastest I did it was 7:36. I mean, I could probably do it in under 7 hours, but I don't think much more than that, like somewhere in that neighborhood.
I wouldn't have broken 7. I broke 8, but maybe 30 minutes faster or something like that. I mean, like I said, that was a ride of my life. And World Cup races and that sort of thing, you know, I've had some other really good finishes and I felt great, but this was unbelievable. So I don't, a better bike would have made some difference, but I was still kind of flying.
And that really is the thing. Everyone gets one ride of their life. Yours was at Leadville. Man, amazing, both of you. Lori, John, again, thank you. Look forward to seeing you out on the course next year.
Thank you for interviewing us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Lori and John, not only for the words, but for being around all weekend. They were easy to approach, easy to talk to, happy to share their key insights, and they have a lot of them. They were at the finish line to greet racers, including our 2 and only 30-time finishers, John Callahan and Todd Murray. Let's go ahead and wrap this episode. We've still got some storytelling to do. You'll be hearing some of that from the Fatty and Hammer and Melissa. I guess we need a nickname for her. She kind of goes by Mel more often than not. So there will be some storytelling coming up in one final episode this season. Be sure to stick around, watch for that.
All right. In between now and then, if you want to keep talking about Leadville 2024, check out our Slack channel. It is leadville.fm/Slack. If you like this show, go wherever you listen, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and to see all the ways you can find this show, it is leadville.fm.
Thanks, everyone, for listening this season. Loved this season. We are not quite done. Got one more coming up this season. So we hope to see you in a year or so at the starting line.